PBA at noon. Hi, Claude. I'm Paul Benno, and I'm joined by my colleague, Sophie Caesar. We're very excited to welcome back Ortho Regenerative Technologies. Ortho trades on the CSE under the symbol ORTH. It is an emerging orthobiologics company dedicated to developing novel therapeutic tissue repair technologies to dramatically improve orthopedic and sports medicine surgeries success rates. Here to discuss the upcoming pipeline and give us an update is CEO Claude LeDuc. As always, please ask your questions in the Q&A, and once Claude is done presenting, we will begin the questions. Bonjour, Claude. Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you for having me, and welcome to everyone online. So I will share my screen with the corporate presentation. I need permission to share my screen, Paul, if possible, please.
Sure.
Does that work, Claude? It's Sophie. Are you good to go?
Okay. Hi, Sophie. Just a second. Yes, now it works perfectly. Thank you very much. So for the ones who are not familiar with Ortho Regenerative Technologies, we're involved in soft tissue repair. The challenge in soft tissue repair, it's the lack of blood supply if you tear a meniscus, cartilage, ligament, or tendon. There is a lack of blood supply to repair it. If you cut your skin, you bleed, there is a clot, and then a cascade of repair events very quickly. But in those soft tissues, that's the whole challenge. And this is why in orthopedic musculoskeletal conditions, the orthopedic surgeons are trying to find better way to treat them. And I'll show you in the coming slides, how we address that. So, the company is, as Paul stated, an emerging orthobiologic company. And, technology is based on a mucoadhesive chitosan-based polymer. Mucoadhesive, it means that the molecule is positively charged, and human soft tissues such as cartilage, tendon, meniscus, or ligaments are negatively charged. So that means that our polymer will stick to those soft tissues, and that's the whole deal. That's the only natural biopolymer that is positively charged. Well, we call it polycationic molecule. And again, it gives the uniqueness of our technology to be combined with biologics. So we combine that polymer with platelet-rich plasma, and I will describe a bit later, what is platelet-rich plasma, why we use it. But those are factors, biologic factors into your own body, into your bloodstream that we use to accelerate tissue healing. We have a pipeline of products. We have two products right now that we are working on. One is ORTHO-R for rotator cuff repair of the shoulder, and we have other application with the same product. I'll show you that in a second. But we also have in-house a PRP system. So we use, as I said, platelet-rich plasma in combination with the polymer. So we got an in-licensing global deal with a company that manufactures a PRP system, and I'll describe that with you guys. So huge markets, and our technology is novel, and we have three family of patents. We have a smart business model that is controlling spending, with the overhead, and I'll show you that a bit later. And there is a great value creation and exit potential in the coming months and years. And we're undervalued if you compare ourselves, to companies, equivalent companies onto the US market. We are trading, of course, on the Canadian, but also US exchanges. We raised so far roughly 10 million US to drive all the in vitro animal models, and now we are entering into the human clinical phases. So little money to get far into our development programs. The university is our R&D hub. So the picture you see there is the Biomaterials and Cartilage Laboratory at Polytechnique Montreal. There's a bunch of scientists there, 4 laboratories, all working on our programs. And we have leverage with government grant. We just obtained 2 government grants, for future programs. And voila, we will go into the core of the presentation. So we built the value on our platform that I'll show you next slide, and you know, want to secure a first product, you know, up to the marketplace within 3 to 4 years maximum. And then we are, we will continue to build the team, as we say. And here I just want to mention that we have the ambition to get listed on NASDAQ. So the timing for that, could be this year or just before we start the phase 3. And but we can discuss that at the end. Technology platform, it's again the chitosan polymer. So we customize that platform to the specific needs that we have. So for example, for the one for the rotator cuff tear is the same product for tendinopathies, meniscus, and cartilage. So all the money spent to develop that product will be also benefiting the 3 other indications. And the grants that we just got from the Quebec government, will serve to develop a osteoarthritis formulation, which will combine again PRP with the technology, as well as a wound healing combination of PRP with the technology. The portfolio, so ORTHO-R, the rotator cuff guy here, all the development completed. And I said the same is for meniscus. So, and also, we're benefiting for both meniscus and cartilage. So, and then the animal studies were completed for ORTHO-R. We did pilot studies for those 2. But we're starting a pivotal animal study this year for the meniscus. And then the clinical program is starting for ORTHO-R, and which will last, to complete the phase 1/2 in 2022 to 23, and then starting, the phase 3 in 23-ish, yes, early to 2023. The market is huge market, $5 billion market. So just in the US, 600,000 rotator cuff tears per year. If you multiply that number by with $1,000 for retail price or user price, if you want, for the ORTHO-R product, that translates into a 600 million market opportunity for us. And meniscus and cartilage, there is even more patients there. And so again, huge market potential or opportunity. And what is the clinical need? So that's, the market itself, but where do we fit into that market? Well, standard of care to repair those 3 conditions, it's surgery. So if you just do surgery, to repair the rotator cuff, so you will do sutures and anchorage to tack your tendon back onto the humeral head of your bone, and then you close your patient, and then you pray that the tendon tissue will fuse with a hard bone tissue. And then, as you can see, there is tons of failures out of standard of care surgery. So surgeons are looking for better treatment or to improve the outcomes of their standard of care surgeries. So this is where we are coming in with the combination product that we have. Surgeons have started to inject platelet-rich plasma, but alone. So injecting platelet-rich plasma alone, when I say alone, it's without our technology. It means that the PRP will be degraded within 24 hours. So it does not stay there long. It's liquid when you apply it on the surgical site, and it runs away very quickly. So it has very limited impact of the growth factors from the PRP to act locally. And this is where the added value and the benefit of the combination product, which is sticky to human soft tissues, will keep the growth factors in situ at the surgical site for weeks. So your growth factors and cytokines and all the cascade of repair event can be maximized right where you need it. PRP, so this is the biologic part of our combination product. So the polymer we use was classified by the FDA as a drug because of its interaction with the platelet-rich plasma components. And the PRP component is a biologic, so it's a part of the human body's biologic, if you want. And so that part of the biologic part, if you want, is produced by the human body. So the beauty of our technology is that we don't need to, for example, other technologies or competitors are working with stem cells derived from bone marrow aspirate or fat tissue, adipose derived stem cells, or the umbilical cord stem cells. And when you do that, then it's a whole regulatory burden and long and costly manufacturing process, because you need to denature those components so that it becomes compatible with any patients, and then manufacture it. And so it is, into the marketplace, a very tough journey for them, because those will be an expensive product. So the beauty of our technology is that PRP is prepared into the operating room. So when the patient is rolled into the OR, we just withdraw 60 cc of the blood, and then we spin it into a centrifuge for 12 minutes. And then that centrifuge would separate all the blood component in different parts, red blood cells, white blood cells. And then the middle part is the platelet-rich plasma, which is rich in, the platelets are secreting granules, and those granules are releasing growth factors and cytokines that are involved into the repair process. The concentration of those growth factors is 8 to 12 times more than into your bloodstream. And again, so it's a hyper concentrated fraction of your whole blood, and acting as it needs. This is the chitosan molecule that is derived from shrimp shells. And this, we get the primary product, from a company in Iceland, and then we transform it into a patented lyophilized version of it, which is soluble at physiologic pH, so at the pH of your own blood, if you want, and it is diluted with your own fraction of PRP. So we just add the PRP into the vial, we shake for 20 seconds, and then it's ready to be used. So the beauty here again is that PRP is prepared during the surgery, so it does not eat time or eat surgery time. And then when the patient is, when the surgery is completed, then you just add the PRP there, you shake for 20 seconds, very quickly prepared. And so the surgeon, they love it, so they complete their surgery. So standard of care surgery is anchorage into the bone, with some anchors. And then you do suture your tendon onto the humeral head. And then if you're standard surgery alone, then again, you pray that it's going to fuse together. And as there are so many failures, so we just deliver the combination product on top or on and under the repair tendon. So very easy to do, takes just a few minutes to deliver it. And then you wait about 5 to 8 minutes for coagulation to be completed. And then you close your patient the same way as if it was standard of care surgery. So again, features and benefits, again, the whole deal is that you keep your growth factors where it needs to act for weeks instead of less than 24 hours for PRP alone. So that makes the whole difference. There are interactions that are defined as drug actions, from the FDA, because the chitosan polymer interacts with the PRP, interacts with fibrin, and has various drug effect that I just don't want to describe here just for the benefit of time. And I can reply, answer some question if you want any question on that drug effect from the product. So how do we demonstrate that it works? Well, in orthopedic surgery clinical trials, we use big animals, large animals, sheep or goats. And so we used sheep. And those studies were done in independent laboratories that are, not controlled by the company or by the university. So it's independent. If you look at the normal tissue of a tendon, it is bundled and elongated in form. If you do standard of care surgery alone, it is a disorganized tissue and not the same type of collagen into a normal tendon. So it's more type 2 versus type 1. And as you can see, it has a very different appearance than normal tissue. And so this is a mechanically and biologically less viable tissue. If you add to standard of care surgery both the PRP mixed with the technology, then you can find that the organization and the structure of the tissue is very much alike a normal tissue. So that's the whole added value provided by the combination product. Again, histology, and here those are very thin slice of the tissue, tendon and bone tissue. So again, to have the tendon, a tendinous soft tissue to fuse with hard tissue, it needs to be done, and there are some stratification that are unique to that. And one of the reflection of that stratification is the expression of glycosaminoglycan in red here. So we can stain the glycosaminoglycan in red to see, what is the amount and if it's there. And here you can see that there is a perfect stratification of that tissue, but I remind you, this is a normal tissue. And then when you repair that tissue with standard of care, then you don't see much red, just a bit small snatch here and very disorganized tissue. So stratification, again, is not, as it would be in a normal tissue. And then if you add the technology on top of the standard of care surgery, so you can see that there is some red, a nice stratification. And the white things here are artifacts. When you do your very thin slice of the tissue that you cut, of course, there are some tears, and same here, it's a tear. But when we say the stratification, it's more like here, and the same here. When you look at the stratification is that, and you can see that it's gag rich and still remodeling at 3 months. We did a 48 sheep study, spent more than $1 million on that. Very little. I'm not aware of any other companies that would spend that much money in large animals, and even less in academic centers. But again, we obtained the same normal tissue in a normal tendon. This is the tissue that we gain from the technology on top of standard of care surgery, and this is standard of care surgery alone. Again, showing that the added value of the technology is bold. We did MRI at 3 months, and then we showed that there was more tissue that was generated, so faster tissue generation and more tissue generated. And again, the integration with the bone, is showing very improved appearance compared to standard of care surgery, and no safety issue. When you do animals, then after you do all the biochemistry and histopathology, and there is no sign of any issue concern between the control and the treated group. This is the regulatory slide where, again, the FDA has designated the product as a drug biologic combination product. The path to get to the market is a phase 1/2, which is initiated as we speak. And then we will need to have 2 phase 3 studies after that. And so we'll do them at the same time, parallelly in the US and also in Canada and Europe. And then the BLA approval will come right after those phase 3. Manufacturing is done in Montreal, and the clinical batch is completed. We're just awaiting for the certificate of analysis and everything then is completed for the clinical batch. The US clinical trial that we will do, again, we compare standard of care surgery plus the technology versus standard of care surgery alone. Primary endpoint will be safety, because phase 1/2 studies are, safety studies, and just to make sure that, the product is safe. And by the way, this is a 2nd generation product. 1st generation is marketed by Smith & Nephew in 40 countries, have treated, tens of thousands of patients without any major adverse events concern. So, we don't have a concern with regards to safety per se. And then we will measure a secondary endpoint, the pain scores, then shoulder functional scores, MRI, and also number of re-tears. And just for information, re-tears happen within 6 to 18 months after surgery. So this is a 12-month follow-up. And so we shall see the number of re-tears in both groups. And we'll treat 50 patients in the treated group with ORTHO-R versus 25 in the control. And in 10 US centers, I just spoke at a meeting this morning with my clinical group from the US. And so we already have 13 sites that are fighting to be part of the study. And so definitely we'll have 10 sites. And some of them are very prestigious in the US. And the main investigator is one of the biggest names in orthobiologics in the US. The milestones that are coming. So submission of the IND in the first quarter of 2021. So we have today and tomorrow left to deliver that milestone. And we think that, we will do it. So if it's not by the 31st tomorrow, then it would be a couple of days after, but we're all done. Our third party in the US, our CRO is filing all the documents at the FDA site. But again, until the last document is in, it's not a final filing, but we're confident that it is happening as we speak. Enrollment will start very obviously in the next quarter. So by the end of June, we shall have started to enroll our first patient at least. So again, just to inform you, for the ones of you that are not familiar with clinical trials, but all the preparation of the sites. So you need to sign INDs, not INDs, sorry, NDAs, non-disclosure agreements with the sites, then to do the qualification of the sites, then to negotiate the budgets for reimbursement of all the act that the site is doing for your clinical trials, and then ethical review board approvals, and all those are done parallelly. And so it takes, between a couple of months and sometimes up to 2, 3, 4 months. And so some of those actions are already started in some of the sites. So we feel confident that we can start enroll our first patients in the second quarter. 6 to 8 months to enroll all the patients. So it should be end of this year or early next year, at the most. And then we follow for the last patients will be followed up 12 months after, because we follow up for 12 months. And then the study results will happen at the end of 2022 or early 2023. So those are major milestones. Those when your company becomes a clinical stage company, when you have IND approval, which will happen within 4 to 8 weeks maximum. And then when you start enrolling patients, and we will reveal all the centers, one by one. So there will be a constant flow of news during those milestones, and to keep the investors informed on our progress. Here, that's a busy slide, but just to let you know that with very little money, we achieve all that. And there was an inflection point when the animal studies was revealed, and also when the FDA designated the product as a drug / biologic combination product. So, and then those are the material milestones that are coming from the regulatory and also from the clinical trials, and some licensing agreement that shall come during those months and years. I stated at the beginning that we had 2 main product in the pipeline. So we got an exclusive global license for using the HANUMAN PRP system. So, we use this device when we spin the blood, and this device would just separate, the red blood cells from the white blood cells, and the middle zone in between 2 buoy will be the PRP zone that you would aspirate, with a syringe through that small tube that just harvested. So we have exclusivity of using that for all the soft tissue repair indications, as well as wound healing, which is non-exclusive, but we'll use it, of course, for our wound healing program. This is more revenue for the company. So instead of having only our technology and revenue, we have the combination now of the PRP system, which is, the end user pays between, let's say, $375 to $650, depending on which system. So we can price it accordingly to be competitive, but that's great. So more revenues. And then if we sub-license someone in Japan, for example, a company that is involved in orthobiologic treatments, but do not have a PRP system, then we have the combination of both. So we have a turnkey solution for them. We have the PRP system, so they don't need to get one from a third party. It's a turnkey solution that we offer them. Here, just in a second, we work with the best of the best. So we outsource the management of the clinical study in the US, and we have our own staff also. Again, independent laboratory for the animal studies, hospital for special surgery in New York that we collaborate with for some of the development, and many other third parties. The R&D, again, 4 labs and a bunch of scientists working on all actual and future applications. So we are the corporate sponsor of the Biomaterial and Cartilage Laboratory at Polytechnique Montreal. These guys have been working for more than 20 years with the chitosan polymer, and were the source of the first generation product that was out. And so those are the people that we work on a daily basis to develop our programs. And then we have this group of team members, in Ortho. So Mukesh is the VP and medical director that we hired. We stole him from OrthoFix in the US, and he spent 12 years at the Rush University Clinical Research Center. And on the corporate side, he worked, I think 6 or 7 years at Medacta, a orthopedic company, and also at OrthoFix. Again, he has the both side of the fence perspective to manage our clinical trials in the US. And we have, of course, Fred for IR, we have our CFO, lawyer, regulatory person within the team. Board, bunch of guys that have huge experience in the healthcare business. We just have Patrick O'Donnell that just joined, and he has a bit like a profile like me, a orthopedic orthobiologic profile. And so, those are guys that have raised, more than $1.5 million in raises, and many exits that were superior than $1 billion. Myself, 33 years of experience in the big pharma, big biotech, orthobiologic field. First startup was Biomatrix in 1993. We launched Synvisc for a HA treatment for osteoarthritis. We built the sales to 60 million, and Canada, Europe, and then in the US, and we sold it to Genzyme 754 million. And so it was the huge, one of the best success at the time in biologic company. Those are our clinical advisors, orthopedic surgeons. So Jack Farr, big knee guy, Scott Rio at HSS in New York, big shoulder guy. This guy's in the UK, shoulder guy, and this guy's in Montreal, shoulder guy. Scientific Advisory Board, those are the original founders of the Polytechnique Montreal laboratory. They're in the US now, but they're still active in helping us in our scientific programs. We have a runway of 12 to 15 months. We will need roughly about $10 million for the 3 calendar years here. We already raised some of that money back in December. We raised $3 million. So, some of that need is already addressed, but we'll have to do more financing through a NASDAQ listing or any other form of financing, equity financing. So that's the clinical need, financial needs, sorry. 35 million outstanding shares, 34.5 million outstanding shares. We have options, warrants, and convertible debenture. If you convert everything 100%, it would mean a 66 million fully diluted number of shares. and we have a non-convertible debenture that we did in December at $2.4 million US. It's a very active M&A market, so M&A deals between 1.7 billion and down to 107 million. And the NAs are, transaction that we don't have any public number here, but very active field. And that's it. That's my presentation, and I'll be pleased to entertain any questions.
Thank you so much, Claude, again, for such a wonderful presentation. We do have a few questions. One, I know you touched on already, but maybe if you could just touch again on I have a question here regarding an investment banker and your NASDAQ listing, if you could provide some light on that.
Yes. So we have spoken to many U.S. investment bankers, from New York mainly. And so we talk with tier 2 bankers, tier 1 or 2 are there only for big transaction, tier 2 medium transaction, and tier 3 for smaller transaction. So we have offers on the table from, I would say 3 U.S. bankers that are ready to guide us in our financial needs in the coming months. And so it's just a matter of timing for us to secure one. And so again, we're waiting right now, with our discussions with those bankers, with some board members and outsiders, what's the timing to go NASDAQ, and is it now or just before the phase 3, at the end of phase 1-2. And by the way, the phase 1-2 is not powered to have statistically significant results. My point here is not to make deception in the ears of the investors. It's just to let them know that there will be a trend, and that trend will give us the number of patients that we will need in the phase 3. So the phase 1-2 will be a success, whatever, unless there is a serious adverse event that we never expected. It's unlikely because tens of thousands of patients have been treated with this type of molecule. And so the point here is that, timing for the NASDAQ, but we are actively promoting the company in the US. We are, for example, working with you guys and some US IR firms, Westwick, and we are promoting the company with institutional investors in the US. So every week we have meetings like that, and we had one this morning, and every time we present, the guys are illuminated and they say, what a story, and you went so far with little money, and you have so much potential, so undervalued. So again, there is excitement from those institutional investors as well.
Good. Yes, we can see that. I guess it's just all going to depend on the timing that's right for the company and for the shareholders.
Yes.
And again, I know you touched on this, but there's the question, so I'm just going to ask again. So Chris would like to know an update on phase 1, phase 2 filing expected this quarter, as in by tomorrow, he writes.
Yes. So, we promised Q1 to submit the IND. And for me, we will achieve that. Everyone, that IND filing, it's 8 months of sweat, tears, and so much energy from the Ortho group, from the Polytechnic Montreal group, from the manufacturer, and from the US CRO. And so it's a well-coordinated ballet dancing between each one of us to build the US file. We spoke with the FDA back in 2019, and with them, they defined and did put the guidance for us to do our US clinical trial. Well, they did first to do the animal study, which we delivered, and also they gave us guidance, for the US clinical trial. So we know what's needed, and they may come, when you submit your IND. So let's say that, we submitted any day, then they have 30 days to answer. And so if there are any changes they want to the protocol, they may say, well, we're not in accord with you with your split 1/3 patient control, 2/3 on the other side. We would prefer 50-50. No problem. We just change the numbers, in the application, and then we confirm. And then, so we will adapt to any changes that they could ask, but it's unlikely because, and our CRO, US CRO, the regulatory group there, has worked at the FDA, and they're the best CRO for orthopedic studies. So again, we did maximize our chances on each one of the sides to make, to maximize the execution of what we are doing.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so we'll look forward to that.
Yes.
I have another question here. At what stage can these products start being commercialized? It's actually a 3-point question, so let me start with that one.
That's a tricky question because I know that in some countries we may not need, well, not we may not need, we don't need 2 phase 3 studies. And maybe in some countries, and I don't want to give hope that are not real to anyone, but I know that, for example, Australia and sometimes Canada, since there is already a first generation product into the marketplace, they open doors for approval at a much earlier stage. As long as you prove safety, then it is easier to enter. So my point here is that we will explore that in the coming year. If there is any faster way to commercialize somewhere onto the planet, most of the foreign countries are requiring European approval, or a US approval, so or your own country approval. So again, we will explore that. If that person asking that question wants to make sure that we explored all the options, yes. And then technically, for US and Europe, well, for US, we need 2 phase 3. So the target for US approval would be 2024.
Okay.
Okay.
So their 2-part question was, can you be commercialized before phase 3 trials in any market, either human or animal?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I addressed.
With Australia, yeah.
Yes. Animals, we tested the animal market, and for horses, race horses, for cartilage is a huge market. I was into that market with Synvisc before, and but with for soft tissue repair in small animals, it's we spoke with a third party, and it's a bit more difficult market. I'm not sure that it is a volume market.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just putting transparency and no wrong hope from anyone.
No, that's understandable.
Yes, yes.
And a last part, how much money do you have in the bank, and what is your burn rate?
Excellent question. So, what is public is that we had $2 million at the end of, our last press release, or it was mentioned, I think it was at the end of January. When I started with the company 2 years ago, we had 1.4 million of payables and less than $100,000 in the bank. And so I didn't pay me for more than a year. Fred, our IR director, didn't pay him. We didn't pay him for a year, and Luke, the CFO also. So we converted our salaries into different financings. And so it was harsh, but it was for the benefit of the company, because there was ongoing programs, and you don't want to stop programs to pay your own pocket. So the point here is that each one of the management and insiders, insiders and management participated in all financing. So we're in the same boat than any other investors. So now it's the first time that, wow, I can sleep better at night because we have 12 to 15 months of runway. And then we can strategize for the next raise at the right time, so that we always want to balance dilution versus the right timing for raising money, and that's what we're aiming at.
That's great news. So I see Paul's joined us. Paul, do you have a question or two for Claude before we say goodbye?
Yep, just a couple of quick questions. Can your process be used in hip
and knee replacements? Is it like similar, like reparative surgeries?
Yes. Well, there are applications for other I would say musculoskeletal conditions. One of them would be for tendinopathies, for example, tennis elbow or tunnel carpal syndrome, where it's a chronic inflammation because you play too much tennis, or you do too much one movement at work or whatever. So there is an application to be in that field. It's a huge field, even more than the market that we are entering. PRP is injected already there, but again, the same conundrum where residence time is limited. For arthroplasty, for example, implants, there is no indication for that for now. The one indication that could be potential is by combining the technology with a antibiotic, to prevent infection after you have implants. So the rate of infection for implants is there, and it's serious complications. And there are products already in the market, but it's not 100% satisfied market. So that could be one of the options. But our focus, just the soft tissue repair market, is so huge. Again, in startups, and I lived it. I lived the big pharma and big biotech, where you have so much resources, and everything is so well oiled and organized that you witness the perfect world, and it's not always perfect. But small startup, of course, you need to focus. You need one product onto the marketplace to have an explosion into the corporate value. And so focus is the main, main thing that we want to do to deliver the first one product into the marketplace.
And I have one last question. Would your processes be covered by insurance companies? Have you looked into that, or have got some feedback on that?
Excellent. The CRO MECRA has a plan in the phase 3s to accumulate all what we call health economic data. So anything during the clinical trial that is related to costs, to make sure that we have health economic data to justify reimbursement. So the third parties, private payers or Medicaid, Medicare in the US, for example, will want to reimburse, of course, if your product is affordable or has health economic value for the patient. And so we will be accumulating those data during the trial. But the beauty is that the product is very cheap to manufacture. So the powder in each vial would cost us roughly between $40 and $50, with some economy of scale, with volume, and with packaging maybe $50. First generation product is retailed at $3,000 per pop. Okay, and so the point is that we have this competitiveness that the others don't have with the cell-based therapies, where we can price it to maximize market penetration and reimbursement.
Okay. Sophie, are we good? Do you have one more question? I see they come in.
Yes. Can we see some major companies sign licensing agreements at that stage?
Yes. The sooner you make a deal, the less money there is on the table, and the later you do your deal, the more money there is. One thing I can say, and I think we already alluded that publicly, there is interest from one of the top 3 companies. Okay, and so we are discussing with them, and we hope to announce something soon. It won't be a licensing deal that will be bold and all that. I don't want to boost the expectations from the listeners. And the point is that these companies want to put their foot into the doorstep, and then to be timely, to be at the right place to secure a final deal, if you want, with the opportunity. That's how I can spin it. without revealing too much.
No,
But
very well said.
Very well said. Yeah, you could run for politics almost. Sorry,
I don't want that.
No.
Although I can show you a nice picture of my contacts in the US.
Gotcha.
Oh, excellent. That's good news.
With the actual president. So
Phenomenal.
Excellent. Claude, thank you very much for the presentation. Great update. We'll keep everybody posted as we move forward. And again,
really excited to see what's going on with you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you for your help, of course. And thank you for all investors listening for their interest into our technology and company.
Merci beaucoup, Claude.
Always a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you.